Hi, and welcome to The Print. My name is Karanjeet Kaur, and I'm a writer and an editor. I'd like to talk to you today about why a film about Punjab has remained unreleased for years. In 1995, Punjab police abducted Jaswant Singh Khalra from outside his home in Amritsar. 30 years later, India's Central Board of Film Certification has abducted him all over again, this time from cinema screens. The CBFC is demanding 127 cuts to Punjab 95, directed by Honey Trehan. It's a film about the human rights activist who documented extrajudicial killings at the peak of the insurgency in 1990s Punjab. The strategy, then as now, remains consistent. Disappear the inconvenient and erase the documented. Punjab 95, which was produced by Ronnie Screwvala, has been trapped in bureaucratic purgatory since December 2022, when it was first submitted to the CBFC. The film stars Diljit Dosanjh as Jaswant Singh Khalra and Arjun Rampal as the dedicated CBI officer who led the investigation into his disappearance. The CBFC took several months to initially respond and then demanded 21 cuts. Since then, the film has been viewed several times by the revising committee. In the CBFC, the first viewing is by the examining committee and subsequent ones by the revising committee. And the number of proposed cuts now stands at 127. Trehan claimed that there has been no dialogue with the body nor any explanation for the cuts, despite the filmmakers having filed multiple documents that support the events in the film. Trehan told me in an interview, "They have just dictated terms, but the CBFC's remit is to certify films, not to control the narrative. The CBFC is meant to be an independent body and cannot be color coordinated with the government of the day." Now, the list of deletions is a distillate of institutional paranoia. Trehan was told to remove references to the places where the events actually took place, like Tarn, Durgiana, and Patti, as well as the figure of 25,000 presumed killed. The makers were also instructed to delete court-verified crime scenes. They are meant to do away with any references to Punjab police, the Gurbani, the Indian flag, or even a passing mention of Indira Gandhi in a title slate. Trehan said, "But all of this is in the public domain. The 6 men responsible for Khalra's murder have been sentenced by our courts. If anything, it shows our constitution being upheld." That argument has done little for a film that 3 years later remains in limbo. Punjab 95 was even selected for the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2023, only to be withdrawn by the producers at the last minute. Trehan had mounted a legal challenge in the Bombay High Court. Eventually, however, the director said that they were forced to withdraw the case as well. This kind of resistance to a film like Punjab 95 is frankly quite strange. I watched it during a private screening recently. At 2.5 hours, it unfolds with the momentum of a slow burn thriller, even though everyone knows how the story ends. Trehan's direction is spare, unflinching, and never descends into sentimentality, despite the film's tragic events. He was clear that he didn't want to make a conventional biopic and wanted to keep his audience engaged. He told me, "I took many scenes rather slowly, like the one where Arjun is interrogating the cops and eyewitnesses. We live in such a fast-paced world, and I really wanted these things to register." The movie's power lies in its restraint, even when what's unfolding on screen is brutal, making it all the more devastating. Trehan embarked upon Punjab 95 while quarantined during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. He discovered Amandeep Sandhu's book, Punjab: Journeys Through Fault Lines. The chapter on disappearances, titled Lashan or Dead Bodies, rekindled Trehan's connection to a story he had grown up with. He recalled that Khalra's portrait is kept in the Golden Temple, an example of the honor and respect he has been accorded. For Trehan, who belongs to the same Tarn district as Khalra, the activist holds a status equivalent to Bhagat Singh in Punjab's pantheon of martyrs. He took the call to make the film on September 6th that same year, which also happens to be the anniversary of Khalra's abduction. What followed was 2 years of meticulous research, meetings with Khalra's family, consultations with his lawyer R.S. Benz, and studying court records to ensure absolute fidelity to documented events. The Khalra family, according to Trehan, had closely guarded the rights to his life and even signed a contract with the makers, retaining final approval on the film. For Trehan, staying faithful to Khalada's story was more than a moral obligation. Now, if the CBFC's skittishness is any indication, even the idea of Jaswant Singh Khalada is too dangerous for an Indian state that needs a few fictions to remain propped up. The bank director wielded a very subversive weapon. He turned the state's own records against itself. His approach to documenting the deaths of Punjab civilians was extremely simple. He cross-referenced municipal cremation logs with firewood purchases to expose a policy of industrial-scale murder among Punjab's police. This forensic precision terrified power structures because it is constitutionally unassailable. Khalada's methodology continues to find resonance in the work of activists and NGOs today. Punjab 95 is also very successful at capturing a sense of terror and not knowing that pervaded the state during the 1990s. Amandeep Sandhu recalls how his classmates would gather around to recount the number of people who went missing in their neighborhoods. He told me, "The fear of the police was greater than the fear of militants. There has been a systemic obliteration of Sikh voices in Punjab. That obliteration extends to other films about the state. The most famous example of this is Udta Punjab from 2016, a film on which Trehan served as the casting director. It faced 94 cuts before release, but was eventually released with only one cut. Other films have not been so lucky. Tufan Singh from 2016, based on the life of a Sikh militant, was banned entirely in India. Kaum De Heere from 2014 met a similar fate for allegedly glorifying Indira Gandhi's assassins. 5 years later, however, the Delhi High Court cleared the film for release. All of this is especially infuriating when you know that Punjab has provided Bollywood with decades of content. A beautiful background for filmy fantasies, or comic relief in the form of loud, bumbling sidekicks. But its harshest tragedies, the partition, the Operation Blue Star, and the decade of insurgency, remain untouchable. Trehan pointed out that in the last few years, films like The Kashmir Files, The Kerala Story, The Sabarmati Report, and Emergency, which represent 4 different states, continue to be released without any concerns about unrest in the respective states that they depict. He said, "I respect the freedom of speech of each of these filmmakers, but if law and order can be controlled in Kashmir or Gujarat, why is it that only Punjab's law and order cannot be controlled? These are the questions which disturb me, but the CBFC has no reply to them. Who should I ask?" A few days ago, an elementary school named after Jaswant Singh Khalada opened in Fresno, California. Yet the same man's legacy is deemed too inflammatory for Indian screens. Trehan is still hoping for a path for the film that does not involve him slashing it. He told me, "If we have to edit the film according to the CBFC's list of cuts, then Diljit and I will not lend our name to it. I feel CBFC should take the credit for that film. We can only stand by our conscience."